The views and opinions expressed by this program's hosts, guests, listeners, and viewers are solely the views and opinions of the original source who expresses them. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of TV5 Network Incorporated, its subsidiaries and affiliates, and their respective stockholders, directors, officers, and employees.
Sounding off from Los Angeles, the undisputed king of podcasting, who's all about the good times, Mo Twister. Representing New York City, a social media monster and co-creator of the Not Bill Walton Twitter feed, Chris Savage. All the way from Sydney, Australia, a basketball media veteran and unapologetic cultural critic, Bradford Graham. Holding it down from Manila, a seasoned sportscaster with the studio skills to pay the bills, Gino Rufino. This is Full Court Report.
All right, welcome to the Full Court Report. It is another Sunday night here in the U.S., Monday in Australasia, and we have a brand new episode for everyone. We are four guys in four different cities talking NBA Conference Finals now. My name is Mo. I'm in Las Vegas. We have Chris Savage in New York City, Bradford Graham in Sydney, Australia, and in Studio Metro Manila, Philippines is Gino Rufino. Gino, I'm going to go to you first here for the first quarter. You have 12 minutes. Man, a lot of things happened these past few days. Let's talk about it. What do you got?
The Western Conference Finals is set, and it's going to be tipping off tomorrow morning Manila time. And it's going to be, surprise, surprise, the Golden State Warriors going up against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Surprise for you, not surprise for me.
I know, I said Spurs in 7. But let's before we talk about the matchup between the Dubs and OKC, let's quickly go back and recap the Thunder and the Spurs. Game 1 was a complete blowout. The Spurs looked so dominant. LaMarcus Aldridge was doing whatever he wanted on the court. And then all of a sudden, in Game 2, there were some questionable calls. The NBA admitted they made some mistakes, not just in Game 2, but they admitted they made some errors. The referees made some errors in 2 games of the series. I'm not saying that would have changed the outcome of the game, but they did admit there was fault on the referees' side.
Gino, the players make shots. The players decide the outcome. The refs are there to make calls or not make calls based on what the players do. Make shots, execute in the half court. None of this is an issue. The Spurs, and again, I'm glad we're focusing a little bit of time on this series before we move on to the conference finals, because this series was epic, man. This series was wild. It was entertaining. I'm glad we saw huge performances from a lot of big players in terms of Aldridge, Kawhi Leonard, and then I guess Durant and Westbrook. Like all the superstar names in this series, especially the 2 guys in Oklahoma City, stepped up. And again, I think they demoralized the Spurs in this one. They made them look old. They made them look slow. Tim Duncan looked done to me, even though he put up 19 points in this, Game 6. Man, that Game 5 was everything. And the Spurs lost again at home. So uncharacteristic for them. And then Oklahoma City went home, took care of business. A big 37-point night from Durant, who's been criticized for not showing up sometimes in these games. Then him and Westbrook, man, just took care of business.
The Thunder got better as the series went on. So did Billy Donovan,
Absolutely.
who I've given a lot of crap on this entire season. But he's gotten so much better as the series went on. The Spurs looked like they were getting older and older and older every single game, and it was a little strange to see that for me. I really thought Manu and Tim Duncan had enough in them, but they both looked done.
Well, you speak about Billy Donovan, Gino, and his biggest move in this series was putting Cantor and Adams on the court at the same time, going big with that front line with Durant, and the Spurs tried to go little. They had no answer for it. We saw Pop even try to go with no point guard at times, too, and we saw Cantor and Adams just dominate on the rebounds and play physical, and, you see Cantor, who's a defensive liability at times, but with Steven Adams out there, it wasn't the case. So we'll see. That's going to be interesting in the Warriors. They're strong.
Right. The Thunder were the best rebounding team all season. It's no surprise that they dominated on the glass. I mean, they're not only more athletic and longer up front, but they just go after it harder on the boards. And Adams is not only a problem now for the San Antonio and just about everyone else in the NBA, but it's a situation where Russ goes out there and just gobbles up boards. He never looks more hungry. He's aggressive. And then when they get good rebounding nights out of Robinson and obviously Durant and others, so many offensive rebounds by Enes Kanter. It seems like this guy just ends up sort of sleepwalking his way into the key. No one takes any notice of him, and then it just falls in his lap, and there's an easy layup. So,
well, I think that's the case. I think it's the case when you have that firepower the Thunder have. You have two big guns that guys can kind of go under the radar and do a lot of damage at the end of the game. Like, oh my God, what contribution? Now, we also know that rebounding is an effort stat, or at least largely an effort stat. And when you got young guys, hungry guys going up against an aging team, you're going to out-rebound a bunch of those guys, regardless of what their career numbers say or what their track record says. Young and hungry, that's hard to beat come playoff time.
Absolutely.
And I think Gino was right talking about, Donovan too grew up in this series. I think Steven Adams grew up in this series. I think we saw a sort of really impressive performances from Dion Waiters, who I thought played really composed, which we're not used to seeing from Waiters. Randy Foye hit some big shots. But I'm really also, surprised that Tony Parker and Manu just were no-shows.
Yeah.
I mean, Manu, 23 minutes, one from, 5 points. I mean, Tony Parker, 23 minutes, only took 6 shots. I mean, they were relying on him to do a lot of damage in this series. And Tony Parker and Manu, I mean, is this the end of the big three now in San Antonio?
Father Time is undefeated.
It is. I mean, I think I'm really surprised that Tony Parker played as poorly as he did. I thought Manu, he was basically asked to come back this season, and part of it was because of the free agency signings that they did with LaMarcus Aldridge and West. But I just don't see him coming back anymore. I mean, the way Manu played in this series, he looked like he was ready to go.
Well, Manu's had some bad playoff, kind of performances. So this should not be a surprise.
Yeah, but the injuries also did slow him down. He was out for a while with that testicular, what was it called, Mo?
The unfortunate injury. He had to have the surgery done on his groin. But on the court, though, like the fact that Kawhi was relied upon so heavily, seemed the only one out there aggressive. He shot, 9 from 23. I don't think I've seen a bad shooting performance from Kawhi yet in this game, in Game 6 in Oklahoma City. Kawhi just wasn't able to deliver for the Spurs the way we're used to seeing them do. I think this series was won and lost in Game 5. I said it before on the last episode. Whoever wins Game 5 wins the series. I think winning that game in San Antonio, whether that was a call or no call, whatever your view is at the end of that game, I think the Spurs had their bubble burst in that Game 5 at home, and then they had to go into that boisterous crowd and actually face a hungry, ready, motivated Oklahoma City outfit. And again, like Steven Adams having 15 and 11, Durant putting up 37 points in a closeout game, showing who's, really the most important player on this team. And so it's a case of, I think the Thunder not only wanted it more, but they realize there's actually more at stake for them. They don't have the title. They're hungry, they're younger, but they also have to actually stare down at the barrel of not only free agency, but all of the sort of backlash that comes their way if they don't overachieve. And, everyone sort of has been talking about this team as being underperformers. And yes, maybe we'd be in this position again last year if Durant didn't get hurt. But the point is that when the adversity came their way, they stood up, they accepted the challenge, and they came through in a way that nobody thought. Nobody thought that they were going to be able to take 2 games from San Antonio on their court.
Yeah.
And yet they ended up sort of turning the series, minus that Game 1, they won the next 4, basically. So, it's a real interesting case of the Spurs were a little sort of insecure and lost a little of their identity, but the Thunder clearly found their mojo, and man, do they look good when they're all firing on all cylinders.
And it might be premature to say, but they might even save the future of their franchise with this performance. Maybe Kevin Durant all of a sudden is all of, hey, wait a minute, I'm staying.
I will say it for you. This was the single most important series that the Thunder have played in, minus their 2012 finals appearance. Like, this was where everything, and there's hyperbole for you, whatever, but this was it. I mean, Durant, this series basically was left with a situation of, if we don't advance to the conference finals, I have to assess what this team's true value to me is. But now they've all stood up. Adams stood up and showed it. Cantor's signing looked like it was, a good move by Presti. Westbrook's dominance at both ends and hungriness and assertiveness and craziness has been beneficial to them. I mean, that crazy Game 6 by Andre Robertson. I mean, whoever thought that guy could play like a little mini, Kawhi Leonard? I mean, he was great at both ends. He was hitting threes, and it was a case of, I think everyone from the Thunder knew what was on the line here and stood up and performed. And that's what the playoffs are supposed to be about. The big names, the big players shining brightest on the biggest stage.
I've never seen Brad so excited in my
so excited.
Oh, dude, the relief.
Enjoy it, Brad. Enjoy it, Brad, till tomorrow.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question of the way the Thunder played and the way they came back from being blown out.
Yep.
The Warriors are the favorites. The Warriors are probably going to win from all our predictions or at least 3 of our predictions. But at the end of the day, we watched the Thunder go out there and beat a 67-win team. And they didn't just beat them. The last 2 games, they annihilated them. This is a team that has everything going for them right now. They have 2 stars who have all the supreme confidence in the world. And if anyone can beat the Warriors the way they're playing, it is them. They probably won't, but why not?
Let's talk about that now. Then let's talk about the game 1 of the Thunder of the Western Conference Finals between the Thunder and the Dubs are happening tomorrow, 9 a.m. Manila time. Gentlemen, I guess a lot of us are going to be picking the Dubs in this series, but what
it's going to be clearly it's going to be exciting because you have 2 supremely talented offensive teams. The reason why I give this the Warriors series is because Oklahoma City's defense. I know, Brad, you disagree with me with the defense.
They've gotten better though, Mo. They've gotten better.
Sure, but they're historically bad for this caliber of a team. Now, the worst defensive performance team from an NBA champion over the past 10 years was the 2009 Lakers. They allowed 104 points per 100 possessions. This year's Thunder have allowed 105.6. That is super high. In February, I know that's February, but it was up to 109. So this is a really bad defensive team for a championship caliber team. And to go up against the Warriors, an elite offensive team, we're going to see a lot of excitement. We're going to see a lot of fireworks, but that defense is going to have a hard time with Steph, Clay, Draymond, and company to be able to win and move on to the finals.
All right, so timeout.
Let's call a quick
What's everyone's
timeout.
predictions?
Yeah,
Timeout.
Let's go.
What's the prediction?
Chris, you first.
Okay,
I'll take Golden State in 6, and that's the most.
Okay.
No way this goes 7.
Chris.
Dubs in 6. I agree with Mo. Defensive liability is too much for them to contend with Dubs with.
Brad, should we actually ask you?
I'm gonna do the complete cop out. I'm gonna say I really don't give a shit. Sorry for swearing. But this is the single most excited I've been about 2 teams. I love both these teams, and I can't wait to see this series. I think NBA fans win from top to bottom here, and it really, to me, doesn't matter now who wins. It really doesn't, and I think both teams have shown what they're capable of, and I just want to see this go to 7, which I think it will.
Well, my personal take, I think the confidence of the Thunder are at an all-time high, and I think the everybody from top to bottom, it's an all-time high. I think Donovan might get out-coached here, but I do believe that.
Do we need coaches?
I think you do. I really do think you do here. But I do believe that the Thunder have enough in them to actually push this to Game 7. And it's a coin flip.
Anything goes.
Anything goes.
No. Here, the only way.
Goes to 7.
2 guys not predicting.
Let me just put it out there. Thunder in 7.
Okay, fine. You want to say that? Okay, here's how it's going to happen, though, real quick, and then we got to move on. It's only going to be Thunder in 7 if Serge Ibaka, I know I've been saying this since the last series, Serge Ibaka's got to step up. Steven Adams has step up. If you can get the same consistent performance by Adams as we've seen here in the Spurs series, and then you need a stepped up Ibaka. If not, no chance. Done in 6. At most, done in 6.
Thunder in 7.
You got to have those 2 guys. Yeah. All right. Thanks. We got to get out of here. We have quarter number 2, an exciting start to our Full Court Report episode. Back after this. Don't go away.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. We have quarter number 2, and we are going to New York City to talk to Chris Savage. He's going to direct this entire quarter. So, Chris, 12 minutes. What do you got?
Well, for those who actually watched Game 7 today, and that's a weird thing to say that there's still some questions if someone watched Game 7, the Raptors, they wrapped up their series against Miami with a dominant win. Huge blowout win. Kyle Lowry, a huge performance with 35, 9, and 7. Few and far between for him in these playoffs, but when it mattered the most, he stepped up.
Saved the best for last, Chris. Saved the best for last.
He did. That's 2 Game 7 wins now for the Raptors. Now, we talked about coming into the playoffs, this team. There was a lot of questions about them. We heard about their past playoff woes. We even talked about, are there enough role players in their contributions to really be able to back up Lowry and DeRozan? And I thought they could this year contribute enough in the playoffs. I thought they could this year make a nice playoff run because their defense, and it was much improved from last year. What I didn't expect was that the role players weren't going to help out, but really step up for DeRozan or Lowry, if not both of them at times. It was a very weird playoff run. So people could point to, hey, look at their competition. But the Raptors earned this. They went out and got the home court advantage for these two series. They fought tooth and nail for the whole regular season. They even pushed it to the brink with being only one game behind the Cavs. They stayed relatively healthy, which is the name of the game. So, this is a win for this team this season.
It's their last win this season.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. But if you look at it, we're all going to pick the Cavs. The Cavs should win easily, but you have to give a lot of credit to this Raptors team and what they did.
Right.
And Mo, I know you picked
Is
up
that
this past
moral
series.
victory, Chris Savage?
No, it's not a moral victory. It's what they've done
It's a real
now.
victory. It's a real
no,
victory.
I
Yeah, you're right.
think Chris
It
is on
absolutely
the
is.
money in saying a conference final appearance is a conference final appearance. The
That's
way
right.
the Rockets did it last year, the way the Raptors did it this year. I mean, they're now considered one of the final four teams. I mean, now anything goes. They start from zero again. No one picks them. They are clearly underdogs against the Cavaliers.
It's zero. Right.
Yeah, they do start at zero. But the whole idea is that if Lowry and DeRozan are able to score and distribute and facilitate and be the playmakers and creators and be the offensive producers that we know they can be, at least what they do is give themselves a fighting chance. Without those two guys firing on all cylinders, without those guys confident, they're going to get swept. But at least they can go in, they can feed off the home crowd, which they clearly did in this Game 7. I mean, Miami probably had no right pushing it to 7, and the Raptors should be faulted for letting it go to 7. But the point is that they did advance. They did sort of shake off, all of that sort of dust and cobwebs. And, good for them. Credit to them. I mean,
And they won
that's
two
what the
game
playoffs.
sevens, Brad.
That's what the
They won
playoffs
two
are
game
actually
sevens.
about. Right, the
They won
playoffs
two
are
game
actually about
sevens.
coming
That's a lot.
through.
You have to
in
give
the
them a lot of props for that.
Yep. Right, and Kyle Lowry will be remembered as being a guy who scored 35 in a deciding Game 7, and that's going to help build not only his confidence and not only his personal legacy, but it validates his All-Star selection, and it does help him at least remember that he is a guy that can be a difference maker.
Right.
Which
And
this series had few of.
Yeah,
Right.
35
We
points,
had
9
35
assists,
and 9.
seven
Right.
rebounds, and 4 steals. That was a
Right,
very,
sure.
very
That's a
good.
classic game.
haven't-
It's a classic game.
We haven't seen those numbers in a Game 7 since Kevin Johnson did it for the Suns. But let's also credit guys like Bismack Biyombo, who did 17 and 16
Huge
with the 2
performance.
blocks. He in fact could have did 24 and 6 if he just hit some damn free throws. So big showing there from Biyombo, where Valanciunas is not missed. But
Right, they didn't
come
fold.
on.
They didn't fold. They had injuries.
didn't fold.
When Valanciunas went down, they could have folded. I mean, Dragic, had an incredible Game 6. I watched that game and really sort of studied the sort of body language of Toronto. They just didn't look engaged. They basically had said, "Look, we'll just go home and try to win it there." And then it was a case of clearly Miami just ran out of gas. I mean, D Wade taking 13 shots in a deciding game to me is very uncharacteristic of D Wade. I know he played 34 minutes, and clearly D Wade looks spent. And this Miami team tried to fight as best they can, but this was clearly, when Toronto's backcourt was firing, Miami just looked outgunned, outclassed, outcoached,
Right.
everything. So it was a case of Miami had no business being in a Game 7, but they were there, and then they tried
and we
for
spoke
at least
about that
24
after Game 1
minutes.
of the series. That which is going to give first, Dwayne Wade's legs or Lowry and DeRozan continuing to play this bad? Well, we found out the answer to that, and that was a deciding factor. That Lowry stepped up, and Wade, he just couldn't hold the full support of his team. And now this team, young franchise with an energized fan base, they're on the map. Yes, they'll probably get destroyed by the Cavs the next round, but they're on the map, and that's a huge thing for the city of Toronto.
But what happens now? I mean, we have the two best teams in the Eastern Conference, at least during the regular season. They're
Sure.
in the conference finals. I mean, obviously, at this point though, the Raptors don't have anything to lose. I mean, I know that's a cliche when you say it in the beginning of series because everybody's going to pick the Cavs to demolish them.
No, all pressure is on the Cavs. All pressure
It's
is on
dangerous
Cleveland.
too, yeah.
Yeah, if LeBron, and especially that first game at home, I mean, if they're outside shooting, if they're going to rely on that now and it's not falling for them, they've got to look at ulterior options. And it's one of those things that you don't know what DeRozan and Lowry you're going to get, but again, when you look at who's got the most talent between Kevin Love and obviously Kyrie and LeBron, the Cavs are heavily favored for a reason, and it's the Cavs series to lose. And again, to see Toronto even take one game from them might actually be a little surprising. As Mo said, I don't know if the Raptors will win another game. They might not win again till November. So
and the reason why is this: you said it. You don't know what you're going to get from DeRozan and Lowry, but what you get from what you get from the Cavs is consistency, and it's led by LeBron James. The inconsistent factors on the Cavs are guys like J.R. Smith. Really the fifth, the sixth, seventh guy you have to worry about. But their top dogs are not inconsistent, and that is why this is going to be a 4 and out.
And you have the three best players in this series are from the Cavs. I mean, I think that's safe to say.
Yeah.
No?
Best three right now. I mean, come on. No one said Kevin Love's superstar earlier this year, and I heard that about DeRozan and Lowry.
Love is going to prove a lot to me. This is his chance to do it. I mean, Love needs to step up and earn his keep. He's the one guy I still have a big question on that Cavs team. We know what everyone else is, and I want to see what Love is all about. I don't know what you guys think about his role.
I think that we will see what he's about come the finals. This will be such an easy series that I don't think that there's really – I don't agree with you, Brad, when I said there's pressure on Cleveland. I just don't feel it because – it is just going to be a cakewalk for them. They have lost their front court star in Jonas Valanciunas. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but even if he's there, power for power, game versus game, there's just nothing. There's just nothing there.
He's out. No, he's done.
So, yes. Well, there you go. I mean, it's no chance.
This feels a lot like the Atlanta team who went against Cleveland in the conference finals last year. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be able to take a game from Cleveland in Cleveland, but I definitely think they're going to be much more competitive than people give them credit for, especially at home. And I think that the Patterson, DeMari Carroll, and Biyombo, I think that's a nice little, defensive wall or athletic wall at least.
What does that mean, though?
No, what does that
mean?
What it means is the Cavs are going to be pushed a little harder than I think the Cavs are comfortable with, and I think these games might be closer than we think we're getting. I don't think they're going to be blowouts all the way. I really don't. They might be a 4-0 series, but I think this will be similar to the Detroit series. I think that the Raptors will really push them, and I think that they'll be in the games, but I just don't think they have the ability to close because LeBron's going to take care of business.
Well, I'll tell you, if it's a 4-0 series, now the Cavs, you can talk about all the momentum going to the finals. You're talking about history there if they're doing it. But I agree that there's going to be a couple close games in there. I don't think it's going to go past 5. I think it's going to be a sweep, actually. I think 2 of them are going to be blowouts, to be honest with you. And, I'm sure the Raptors can push a little bit, but without Valanciunas, what we saw with Lowry
and again,
inconsistency,
one thing we're not taking into account here. One thing we really need to take into account here is the Raptors haven't been here before, so we don't know if they're going to get overwhelmed by the stage. We don't know what DeRozan and Lowry look like in a conference finals. I mean, Atlanta last year looked like they had the veteran players who kind of felt comfortable out there even though they didn't win, whereas I'm not sure. I mean, DeMari Carroll's there for that sort of leadership, and hopefully he helps and gets them in the locker room and can rally them. But we've never seen Lowry on this stage in this kind of pressure cooker, and we don't know if this is a confidence team or if it's a sensitive team. So we're going to basically see them. And who this real Raptors team is, they will reveal themselves this series.
And I think sometimes if you don't know what kind of pressure is that's on you.
Oh, they know, Gino. They know.
But I'm just saying if they've never been here except for DeMari Carroll. So if they don't really know what it really means, sometimes. That's a good thing for them because it kind of doesn't add to that pressure.
Yeah, but again, what does that mean in wins and losses?
It means nothing.
It means nothing. It means what? They don't lose by 20. They lose by 15. It still doesn't.
It means nothing.
All of these things
they're going to get swept. Come on.
Yeah, they're going to get obliterated.
My point specifically being going into the series, they might be naive and they might be sort of, opportunistic. But the reality is that when they step out onto that floor and they deal with extra media, extra scrutiny, extra pressure from the cameras and what's at stake here, that's where I feel that, we just don't know what we're going to get from these Raptors. Whereas at least the Cavs and LeBron, who have done this a million times over, will know, hey, even if we drop 1 or 2 games at home up front, hey, we're still going to win the series because we're still the superior team.
Because they know how to bounce back. Big factor, though. You guys are missing a huge factor. Can the biggest cheerleader now, past Spike Lee, Drake, get in LeBron's head and help the Raptors steal the game? We the North, baby.
No, please.
I think it's going to be 5 because Drake will get in someone's head. No, it's going to be a sweep, guys. What do you guys think? Final predictions on this. Final predictions on it. Sweeps for everybody or no?
Yeah, sweep, and it is absolutely easy walk to the finals for the Cavs. Easy.
Guys?
I say sweep by the Cavs. I say game 1 will be a little close, just because it's the first game, and then game 3 will be a little close, and that's it. but everything else.
Toronto wins at least one game at home.
Ooh.
Okay, that's fair. Before we finish up here, I just want to shift over to the Heat. Talk about quickly what their future looks like. They have Bosch locked up to max contract for the next 3 years. We don't know if he's going to play. There's maybe they can get a medical reprieve out of it if his career is essentially done. Will Wade take a pay cut? He's on a 1-year contract for next year, especially his even though he played great down the stretch in the playoffs, had a good regular season. Is he going to take a pay cut? Whiteside, is he a max player? Is he not? The positive, though, is you have Deng, you have Johnson, you have Amari Stoudemire's contract all coming off. So there's some room. You have your point guard locked up. What do you see for the Heat coming up in the next few years here?
They have nice young pieces. I think the question mark really is with
that
Bosch.
Josh Richardson, man. Did you see that dunk he threw down in Game 6?
Yeah.
Like,
Thunder
man,
dunk.
I mean, Winslow, Richardson.
Winslow's a nice player.
They have some nice
player.
young pieces there. But my question mark really is the health of Bosch. I think it's gonna come down to that. Whatever happens with him, then everything else falls into place. But they have to figure out what's gonna happen.
Here's what I do if I'm Miami. The second Chris Bosch is medically clear to play, you block him up and get some pieces to support him. If for whatever reason the doctors say Bosch cannot play, if I'm Pat Riley, I throw a big chunk of money at Blake Griffin.
Wow.
Sure.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What about Whiteside? How much do you pay Whiteside? Is he a max player because of his
I'll
natural
tell
abilities?
I'll tell Whiteside take a little bit off. We'll give you next to max. We'll give you, we'll sign you on a Kawhi Leonard style deal. Sign it 1 year, and then when the cap spikes, then we'll sign you for a larger deal if you prove yourself.
Yeah, they can put it like a back heavy, type of contract.
A backloaded type of contract. Yeah, no, I still think Whiteside's more important here than Chris Bosch, really, just moving forward. But we're running out of time here. We'll discuss it another time. It is halftime when we return. You're listening to the Full Court Report back after this.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. It is halftime show where we take a little break from all the hoops talk. I know it's been exciting, but we need that break. We need to call this 5 minutes here. Now, if you guys know me, you know I'm a big EDC guy. That's a everyday carry type of dude. I got little gadgets with me constantly, pocket knives, flashlights, all that thingamajigs, But what's interesting is on the flip side, what you might not know about Brad is he doesn't even have a cell phone. I mean, like, you've been running cell phone free these past few years, Brad. So you and I are polar opposites. We're very good friends, and we could probably be roommates, but we are on the other side. I've got a bunch of crap with me, all like a mini Batman, and you just go straight pencil paper and nothing else to bother you. And I always thought that was rather interesting about you, Brad.
No, that's cool. I do have to confess, I mean, my laptop is basically my child. And basically, no, actually, you know what? I'll go further than that. I'll say it's part of my functioning. It's part of my body. It's one of these things that it's an extension of me. I consider it an organ, if you will. But yes, you're right. No mobile phone. I consider mobile phones a luxury, not a necessity.
That's awesome.
I say
That's awesome.
There's nothing awesome
I'm able
about
to get
that.
away with it for one reason. First of all, I love email. I love writing. So email's where it's at for me in terms of communication. But more importantly, I don't have a significant other, so no one needs to keep tabs on me, and I don't need to keep tabs on anyone else. So being a single guy means that I can float around the city free. You know what I do? I live like the 1980s. I make plans and I stick to them, and there's no follow-up because follow-up is only something you need when you're not sure if the person's going to meet you. But I make plans and I stick to them, and I just prefer to do it that way. I'm an old school guy, and
I respect
you know what?
What
It causes a lot of problems because you go out and you meet
nostalgic.
people and they say, hey, what's your cell number? And I say, don't have one, but here's my email address. And then they go, oh.
Right, what do you do for directions? I mean, man, like you didn't tell me you go back old school there too. But listen, I know you're old school. But listen, here's the question I have for the halftime. I'm going to post it while we have a few minutes. What is your favorite device? Now, I don't know if you've answered it already, Brad, by saying your laptop. But is there anything else? I know you said it's part of your body, but just your favorite thing or the
Yeah,
necessity
I guess,
you have
I
to
guess
have?
for me, yeah, sure. So I still have an old school iPod. It's not the original iPod. It's more of a nano. I just can't leave the house without having music in my pocket. So I have to have my iPod with me, and it's always fully charged. And that's basically it. If my iPod's with me and my wallet's with me, I'm good to go anywhere.
Brad, I got to stop you right there. Old iPods are going for thousands on eBay because
Yeah,
they're
that's
become
true.
so rare. You need to look
Yeah.
into that, bro. I'm just telling you. Just
like
from
10
a
Gs.
financial standpoint, it depends on you want to put some.
Then
Alright,
you can,
I'll keep
then
it
you
in
can move
mind.
up to an iPhone after that.
Yeah. All right, Chris, how
that's
say you, man?
blasphemous.
Favorite device? What do you need with you every single day?
It's by far my cell phone, and it got to the point just a few years ago, and my family almost had to have an intervention with me. So I had a very demanding job, so I had a cell phone for that, and then of course very demanding at its peak Twitter feeds, and
Sure.
it got to the point where I would have two phones because one would be work gave me its own phone, and I would be at the same time going on both of them, at once to the point where I was
Chris,
able to type on both of them. Go ahead.
Chris Savage,
Chris, do you
teenage
have-
girl.
Do you have? I mean, here's my question for you: as someone who's
Tinder.
not attached to their phone, do you have anxiety issues when your phone's not
Yes.
around you?
Yes. And
How
when
far?
people
Here's
guys
another.
out-
Here's another quick.
Tinder.
Yeah, here's another quick follow-up question. How far have you gone back once you realize you've left your phone? Like, is there something like you went 50
Yeah, no, I'll
miles
make it
just
all the
because you
way to
left it at
work.
home?
I'll go all the way to work and drive back, dude. And then when I don't bring a charger into work, and I start running out of juice, I have my car parked, in the city. I have my car parked. I run back to the parking lot in the car and start plugging in my phone as I sit in the car and wait to go back to work.
Wow.
Good Lord, that's rough times, man. You sound Asian. Gino, speaking of us, what is it, man, gadgets-wise?
Well, you know what? It's got to be my phone. I mean, it's just a normal iPhone, but I have a battery pack attached to it in case I run out of juice.
Wow.
But the phone I primarily use, obviously, not to make calls, but to keep in touch with a bunch of people. And also when I was editor for some magazines, I would actually do go through it on my phone, and I would check the pages on my phone. I would type my editor's note on my phone, and I would sometimes write articles on my phone. And
Sure.
And you with all the apps, with all the endless apps that they put out there. I mean, obviously, you stay
I've never
connected
heard of
that
things.
way.
Gino, what do you call them? Apps?
Yeah, what's an
Am I
app?
pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah. Appetizers.
Something you
get
eat.
ready.
Yeah. But it's
no,
moved
Brad-
on
Brad
to
takes
a watch.
naps.
It
Can
moves
we
to
speak about that
a
really
watch
quick,
as well.
though? I hate when someone leaves me a voicemail this day and age. You better text or email me. I'm not going to listen to your damn voicemail.
Wow. Look at you, teenagers. Listen, I'm with you on the phone. I have one, but it's not something that I'd go back for. It's not something I turn on all of a sudden. I don't have an extra juice thing. I don't care about whether it's fully charged or I got 10% left. What I'm really big are bags. I love backpacks. I know, Brad, you're the backpack baller on Twitter, but you've seen my collection of backpacks, fanny packs, little just bags like crazy. So that's my device, quote unquote. I always gotta have a bag.
Like you don't care what's in it, just that you have a stylish bag.
That's right.
That's so-
Yeah. Again,
Who's the little girl now? Come on.
they're teenage girls. I'm a grown woman. I have a nice bag.
I don't know what
All right, we got to get out of here. Let's take a break. When we come back, by the way, a lot of feminists probably upset at that whole comment there.
Sorry. You know I love the
Sorry.
ladies.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we have the second half of our show. Don't go away.
Welcome to the initial episode of No Holds Barred with the Dean, Kinito Henson. We ask the questions, you get the answers.
Did you feel robbed that you didn't get the Best Import Award?
I won Best Import.
If you were the commissioner of the PBA for a day, what would be the first thing you do?
I'm not changing nothing.
Tell us, Lelen, last November, when Samboy, your husband, suffered cardiac arrest, what was your feeling? How were you able to cope? And what kind of magnitude of expenses are you facing?
It's not good.
Recording in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. It is the second half. Now, I know in quarters number 1 and 2, we discussed the upcoming series, the teams that are remaining. I like that because I like putting the team first before the stars. You know how I roll. But here in my quarter, I want to talk about the superstars or the remaining stars, the headliners, as you would say if you were at a show. Golden State, OKC, never a shortage there of big names. Cleveland, of course, another team. Toronto, I mean, you got guys like DeRozan who might use this stage to see if he's worthwhile for a big paycheck come the offseason. So there are individual names here that's going to have a lot of spotlight on them. I want to ask you guys which ones are you looking at? Kevin Durant is another big name, of course, probably the biggest in these conference finals because of the future and his future with OKC or whichever team he goes to. So with the remaining teams left, the conference finals for both conferences, which of these big names do you have your eyes on most?
Yeah,
I'm going to jump.
Go ahead, Brad. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'm going to jump in a direction that maybe you guys don't think, and I'm going to say that I think the person who actually has the most riding on the line is Steph Curry. I think that being the first unanimous MVP means that all pressure is now on him to not only deliver Golden State another title, but if he can't, we're going to chalk him up as maybe being a one-season wonder.
Ooh. Oh, no. That's the boldest thing you've ever said.
And he's right.
Let me finish.
Okay. Well, let him. Let him finish because such a bold statement. Yeah, go.
Yes, I'll be quick. So two things happened here. First of all, he's still the 60th highest paid player. So the second he hits free agency, the Golden State Warriors will not be able to afford to keep everyone, so they have to enjoy this while it lasts, and this may be their last great run or their last chance, because if they don't win it all this year, then, you know what, they're going to be just as competitive next year, but again, people are going to figure out how to beat them now. So they're still undefeated, they're still unbeatable, until anyone proves that otherwise. Now, more importantly than that is Steph has won the MVP. He's now won 2 in a row. So we now consider him like we do a recording artist. He's now put out 2 masterpieces. But can he have a sold-out tour arena? Can he do all the other things that we want from him, you know, in terms of delivering for, you know, pop culture in general? Highly popular, but in order for him to maintain that, in order for him to be sustainable and to be considered amongst the all-time greats in that upper echelon, he needs to take care of business this year. So I think all the pressure is on Steph, even though Steph and everyone else might tell you it's not.
Can I ask you, though, real quick, just to jump off that, and then we'll get into the other answers, but you get a guy like LeBron who's lost multiple times in the finals, yet, it never really hurts his legacy. He was the face of the NBA. Steph is the face of the NBA now. A loss in the finals, or he lost in the Eastern Conference, or Western Conference finals, not that big of a deal, is it?
No, because it is. No, if Steph loses either the conference finals or the NBA finals because of the historic season, people will chalk it up as being regular season, mysticism, and all of a sudden they couldn't deliver when the stage counted, whether it was Durant who took care of business or LeBron who took care of business. And here is the real wrinkle. It will actually signify that the most important position in the NBA is not point guard, but small forward, because now Steph Curry has to take down the 2 best small forwards in basketball. And if he can do that, then he'll establish point guard as being the premier position. But if he can't, then the title refers back to small forward.
I mean, come on, you're the same guy that multiple times throughout this season of our show has brought up the dominance of point guards. Now, to put that all on Steph's shoulders in this series is wild, man. No, I can't agree with that. All right, Chris, go.
3 wins. You got to back it up.
You mentioned that it didn't hurt LeBron's legacy to lose in the finals. For a lot of people, it actually did. It absolutely did. Now, not for me. I think LeBron's one of the all-time greats.
No, but remember, just quickly, Chris, different kind of help. Now, LeBron's showing last year doesn't count. And again, the other times he made the finals in Miami, yes, it hurt him. But he's appearances in Cleveland
I never thought that
about
him. So for me, LeBron is the one I want to watch too. You want to talk about legacy cementers? If he goes out and wins a title, especially against Dubs that has a historic season, everyone who's questioned him saying, well, he's lost so many times in the finals, can shut the hell up. And he is not competing against the best players in the league this year or the last couple of years, like KD and Russ and Westbrook and Steph are. LeBron is competing versus the greatest of all time by winning a title this year with the Wilts, with the Jordans, with the Kareems, all those. That's why I'm watching him the most in this Final Four.
I'm with
Do you
Chris.
think? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. 'Cause I'll jump off that.
I'm with Chris here. I mean, the biggest story right now is, for me anyway, is if LeBron James can bring a title to Cleveland. I mean, you know, they ESPN 30 for 30 released a show, the Believeland, talking about all the teams in Cleveland that haven't won. I haven't seen a show yet, but I mean, it really comes down to that, especially the way they've dominated the postseason so far. I mean, if the Warriors don't end up winning and you know they're not completely healthy, there might be I hate to say it, but there might be a little bit of an excuse on that side. But in Cleveland, everybody's healthy, they're firing on all cylinders, and if LeBron loses again in the NBA Finals, I think that's a bigger story than anything can happen.
Yeah, I don't agree. Yeah, go.
If he loses, he loses to the greatest regular season team we've ever seen. Like, there's no shame in losing to a better squad. The shame is as if that they're up 3-2 in the series and then they blow the series. The shame is more how they lose, not that they lose.
If the Warriors came back from down 3-2, wouldn't be a big deal either. It really wouldn't be. I'm talking about the Warriors.
Right, but I mean, this is why heavyweight of heavyweight.
I just have a question. I mean, does the road to the finals play any kind of part in legacy for LeBron? It's been such an easy road. Teams are so inferior.
They're whipping everyone. Like, they sweep everyone. What's a big deal?
Yeah, but these teams suck, man. I mean, like, getting to the finals.
The people in front of you.
But the thing is, at the end of the day, nobody's really going to care. When you win, like 20 years from now, nobody's really going to care who they beat to get to the finals.
I disagree. I disagree. You take a team like OKC. If OKC can make it into the finals, even lose there, or win the entire thing, you will remember the road that they took to get there. Fine, Dallas, not a juggernaut, but having to beat San Antonio, having to beat the Warriors, and then going on to beat Cleveland, that's a legit championship in every single series. Like, there is respect there, not with just the finals, but with the road there. And with Cleveland,
what
such an
happening
easy
there, Mo,
path here.
Right, so this is why we separate the regular season and the postseason, because the path to the title, once you're in the postseason, is a whole other mountain to climb, and it's a much different kind of terrain than we're used to seeing, and these guys have to go and dig deeper and find other ways to sort of get through and navigate that landscape. So you're right, if the Thunder, and again, whether it's the Warriors, the Thunder, or the Cavs, either one of those three teams led by their three superstar players, it's a feel-good story no matter who wins from now. The only story the NBA doesn't want, and the only story that maybe isn't a feel-good one, is that the Raptors somehow pull off the miracle. But maybe that in itself isn't. Maybe the miracle itself becomes a cool story. But as long as Steph or LeBron or KD, whichever one of these three titans of the sport powers their team to the title, 2016 will be remembered as either the year Cleveland won it, the year the Warriors stamped their place in history, or that KD overcame all odds and was able to climb the mountain for the first time in his career.
Or, as you said earlier, the one-hit wonder Steph Curry. Right. Okay. All right. Anyway, we got.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me throw another one out here. You know, we said his name a couple times through this episode, and I mean, I'm going to answer my question instead of asking you guys for it first. But I do think Steven Adams is the MVP of this second round. I just think he really did step it up for OKC. What a performance by him, offensively, defensively as well. If we're going to give away an award for that, I would have to give it to Steven Adams. Who do you think is the most impressive or the MVP of the second round?
Steven Adams is not a bad choice. I think he definitely put himself on the map in the second round. But I think it was Russell. I think it was Russell Westbrook. The way he took control of that series, in my opinion, whether he was distributing the ball, playing defense, or finishing games, I thought that he really now has an argument between him and Steph Curry and who is the best point guard in the NBA.
Oh, no, that's a bad argument. I mean, I thought Kevin Durant performed. I thought Kevin Durant performed even better than Russell Westbrook.
I'm going to stay on the Warriors tip. I think Klay Thompson impressed me more than anyone else because he had to guard Lillard and then he had to get points with Steph being out. So the way Klay Thompson was able to carry them, the way he was, I think, solid and reliable at both ends, and Klay doesn't get enough credit for and enough respect for the job that he does in Golden State because of obviously the fanfare around Steph and just how likable Draymond Green is. But I just liked everything that I saw from Klay, and again, blitzed the number of shooting records, and I really think that as long as Klay's firing and engaged, even though he can go missing at times, I think he can be the key to the Warriors' success.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, there's X factors and MVPs, and Steven Adams is my X factor. I wouldn't give him MVP because you have superstars in Russ and KD who overcame the Spurs in their 67-win season. It's weird because you have to pick between the two of them, and they kind of take MVP votes from each other. But I have to give it to Russ also. He was a monster in some big games, especially that Game 5, which both of them were great. But I give it to Russ.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna pull LeBron and say we have to redefine what most valuable is, because there's no way that OKC does a good job there with Ibaka just disappeared the entire time.
Sure.
Steven Adams steps up, picks it up, plays at an elite level, gets them into the conference finals. All right, now quickly from the good, let's go to the bad. The eliminated teams that you were the most disappointed by, or maybe even impressed by. Clearly impressed. We might throw the Portland Trailblazers out there, as we've talked about them many times in the past. That's very impressive, even though impressive in defeat. Are there any other teams that impressed or disappointed you guys?
I mean, watching the Hawks get torched the way they did, they didn't even make it competitive. This is a team that was the number 1 seed the year before. I mean, it was, I don't even know what to say. They put up no fight, and part of it we're giving credit to LeBron and those guys over there, and they deserve the credit. But they were just demoralized. And this is a team that won a hard-fought battle versus the Boston Celtics the series before. I was underwhelmed.
Yeah, Mo, I'm going to say that the Spurs, even though they weren't necessarily the team that I wanted to win, clearly 67 wins in the regular season. They're the first team to win that many games since I think the Celtics in the early 70s and not make the conference final. But the 40-1 at home, and then to lose 2 games in the second round at home, I mean, they were just wildly disappointing. After that Game 1 blowout, they never quite seemed to figure out Oklahoma City. Part of that was Wes and KD figuring it out. Obviously, it was also because Adam stepped it up. But yeah, the Spurs, I think people will now look at this team as being a monumental disappointment because they were just such an excellent, dominant, and obviously well-oiled machine for so long. And now this is clearly, I think the wheels have fallen off essentially because there's no Duncan anymore, there's no Ginobili anymore. Now it's Kawhi and it's LaMarcus, but I'm not sure those guys have the capacity to deliver the way those other sort of titans for that team did.
I like the Portland Trailblazers. I mean, I know they won games where Curry was out, but still the fight that they put out there in every single game, it was, somebody called it the closest 5-game series that they've ever seen, and I think that is pretty true because they really moral victory. I know it's a moral victory, but I would give it to them.
Sure. All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have our fourth quarter. Leading the way would be Brad Graham in Sydney. We'll hear from him after this. Don't go away.
Rio 2016, August 5 to 21. Exclusive on TV5, your Philippine Olympic Network.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. It is fourth quarter time, and we are going to Australia and have Brad Graham lead us here for 12 minutes. Brad, what do you got, buddy?
Thanks, Mo. I just want to quickly, share some news that I'm sure you guys have seen and hopefully the listeners will have caught by the time this airs. So go around the NBA quickly here and just sort of announce that big surprise, Karl Anthony Towns from the Minnesota Timberwolves has been named, at least according to the Associated Press, the 2015-16 Rookie of the Year. Number 1 overall pick, averaged 18.3 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 1.7 blocks in what Chris calls one of the greatest rookie seasons to ever happen.
He was better than Anthony Davis in the second half of the season by every metric.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? You can now make legit arguments for his, qualifications on the All-NBA third team. I think that's fine. I think that's a negotiation that's able to happen. But more importantly than what's happened as a result of the on-court production is more the interesting sort of carousel that's now going on between the NBA sidelines and all of these coaches either being canned, leaving teams, or going to appointments, interviews, whatever. So I guess I wanted to spend a minute or two here just talking about the general state of NBA head coaches and why these teams feel the need to fire them, or more importantly, why they think they can be saviors when their on-court personnel hasn't necessarily changed. What do you guys like about all the sort of rummagings that's going on right now
Well,
with the head
I'll tell
coaching
you what it is.
carousel.
What it is. I'll tell you what it is. What it is. Hey Mo, what type of league is it? It's a superstar league, and these coaches they're at the beck and call of these superstar players, and if they can't get them into shape or get on the same page with them, they are gone. And unfortunately, this is a league where these coaches should have 3-4 years to put their program in place, almost like a college
But
program.
Chris,
If you will,
guys like
NFL
Frank
program.
Vogel and Dave Doga, I mean, these guys are playoff proven coaches, and they get canned.
Right.
I mean, does the coach fall on the sword either prematurely or unfairly, or is it a case of, coaching job is such a cushy life because it's a lot of money for very little sort of actual physical exertion, and as a result, these guys, they know they're going to get hired somewhere else anyway. So, do they really care? I mean, how much loyalty should the coach have, and how much loyalty should the team have?
Well, no one should have loyalty in this game. That's just the way it is. I mean, people will get rid of you, or you go to another team as a free agent. But is it unfair? Yes. Are they falling on the sword prematurely? Yes. All of it's unfair, but this is the way the structure is set up, and there's not going to be any changes of that anytime soon, as the owners want to keep their prima donna superstars in check. As the Frank Vogel situation with the personnel, you have situations like that too. Well, I don't understand those. Those are the most perplexing to me, and I don't think I'll ever understand that.
Right. Does Nate McMillan really come in? Should he get hired by Indiana and change or do anything differently from Vogel? I mean, Indiana is still Indiana, whether they've got McMillan on the sidelines or if they get Vinny Del Negro on the sidelines. It doesn't matter how competent the coach is. They're still a team with one trick, and that's Paul George. So, interesting that it seems to me that these teams, and then you go the opposite way and you look at a situation like, Vogel wanted to stay in Indiana, but then they didn't want him. And then you get Scott Skiles down in Orlando. Yep. He clearly didn't want to stay. He has real problems there with what's going on. As I heard on the Simmons podcast the other night, which cracked me up, maybe he's just jealous of Alfred Payton's hairstyle. Maybe that's why he had to leave town.
No, but the rumor of Vogel going to the Magic, I think that's a good fit. I
absolutely,
like that one. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, Bill Walton just went to the Luke Walton, just went to the Lakers. I mean, now we're talking about Patrick Ewing possibly being hired by the Grizzlies. I mean, is this a case of we're now going to go into a rhythm where every June, every May, these teams, at least a quarter of the league is going to swap coaches? Is this healthy for the NBA?
That's a good question. Is it healthy? I don't know if it's going to take a couple of years and see if the ramifications of these, merry-go-round and the head coach position is negative or positive for some of these players. I mean, it has been a superstar league for a very long time. A lot of the greatest players have been from the past, but yet we didn't see this stuff. So I don't know, again, if it's a growing ego, a prima donna thing, or people might think with younger players coming in, they need different leadership, and if it doesn't work out right away, you might as well just cut it off at the neck there, make sure that they don't bond, and grab somebody else and see what the bonding is like with them. I don't know. It's something we're going to have to find out later in a few years to see if it's worked or if it's failed.
Now, here's another coaching issue I have, and it's Patrick Ewing. Now, there's a stigma that is, and it's a legit stigma, that big men don't make great NBA coaches or good NBA coaches, and former superstars don't make good NBA coaches. It's a good stigma. There's a legitimacy to it because big men, they're mostly in the NBA for their physical prowess. They don't have to learn as much to get to the NBA, and they're not near the ball. They don't have to learn as much on the court. And superstars, they just can't relate to the average player because they expect the average player to be able to just dunk the ball through the hoop so easily, something they could do. But Patrick Ewing has earned his dues. Patrick Ewing has proven to be a competent assistant coach through a bunch of years now, and he still can't land a head coaching job, where we see people like Jason Kidd, Derek Fisher, 1 year out getting a NBA coaching job. Now those guys, they've proven that they haven't been great. Patrick Ewing deserves a head coaching job in this league. I hope he gets it with the Grizzlies. He's fighting against his two stigmas, and I just think that part is unfair as well.
Yeah, Chris, no, I hear you there. I mean, my big worry with all of these sort of gamble hirings, or these kind of like, hey, look at the new direction our franchise is headed. It's like, I don't understand how Patrick Ewing makes the Grizzlies a better on-court team. Sure. It's not like he's going to get more out of them. And if they lose Conley to free agency, or if they're, if Zach Randolph is over the hill now, then what do they actually expect from Ewing? And then it becomes a placeholder. Now, you actually had Jaeger in that situation. The players loved him. He clearly loved the players. His situation of 28 players on the roster through the whole season was an unfair position. It's kind of that whole thing where I find it really odd that these teams now behave in a way, and whether social media is to blame, blame, whether it's the owners saying we need you to produce results here and today. I always thought they got signed for these like 3 to 5 year sort of plans, and yet the general managers are allowed to keep their job, yet the head coaches aren't. And I don't quite understand why, if the coach has been dealt a certain hand, why it isn't at least more negotiable or at least a little more flexible.
Yeah,
I think
I don't know.
the instant gratification that happens in the world today, I think that's partly part of it. I mean, it's
yeah, but Gino, there are 29 losers every season. There are 29 losers.
Yeah.
There's only one champion,
and they're
like
losers.
there really should only be. It's either one coach keeps his job and the other 29 get fired,
well,
or it's a case of
there's a case.
You've got to be more realistic.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, like the Pistons made the playoffs, lost in the first round, got swept, but you know that they're heading the right direction. I mean, there are certain cases when teams have kind of succeeded but didn't exactly win, but you see the process, you see them getting better and better and better. But there are teams that have, that have fallen short, and if you're a coach of one of these teams that come up short and I guess didn't live up to expectations, then your job is in big jeopardy.
Yeah, and it's also about changing philosophies too, Brad. You want to change philosophies.
Sure.
Maybe you go from a defensive coach to an offensive coach.
Sure, I understand a lot of the PR side of it, and I understand a lot of the changing of the culture. And like, say, Houston, for example, brings in Kenny Smith. Now, Kenny Smith, being a former player and beloved in that city, and someone who clearly understands the game from the point guard position, might be able to produce results. But what Kenny Smith can't do is fundamentally change who James Harden is. I mean, unless he's actually going to hypnotize him and get him to be a different person, it seems really odd to me that, again, they got rid of McHale and they had Bickerstaff on a temporary basis, but their coaching search seems to be very sort of narrowed, or Murray's not taken enough of responsibility for the way it's been disastrous for them down in Houston. Now, the flip side to that is you look at where Thibodeau's ended up in Minnesota with now Cat and Wiggins, and that seems like a massively bonus, and beneficial and advantageous situation for him. He took the year off from basketball, and if that works out for Thibodeau and the Wolves, then obviously everyone will be patting him on the back, and everyone will know that Chicago was toxic and whatever. But then why not fire Fred Hoiberg in Chicago? Speaking of the Bulls, why let him keep his job when clearly that situation's not working? Like, it seems to be all these teams operate, from my point of view, in this really sort of fickle. Sometimes they dig their heels in, sometimes they tiptoe, and then sometimes they just throw the coach over the fence and who cares where he lands. And so I just don't quite understand.
What do I want to ask is, are we just making a little bit too much about all of this movement? Like, to say,
because it's the number of moves. It's like usually you expect 1 or 2 coaches, maybe even 3 to 5 coaches somehow swap teams, get fired, get canned, get moved on, like retire, whatever the case may be. There's always going to be, year in and year out, a number of coaching changes, because teams and coaches and locker rooms always are forever liquid. But what's not common is such a high revolving door, and coaches going sort of, coaches more importantly enjoying success like Vogel did, and then being thrown out. Like, making the playoffs for Indiana was a huge achievement. That, to me, it just boggles the mind that these guys win games, and that they can't keep their job. I don't understand where the industry basically is heading because where's the incentive to be a coach?
Maybe then it is about like the mindset of some of these GMs or president of basketball operations, whatever is, I want a former player as a coach. Maybe they'll connect a little bit better with our players. I think that's where the interesting question lies: is who's more effective in this modern game? Is it a former player coach, or is it a guy who's never played, in that level? I mean, we've seen
no coach.
Clearly. I think what Chris brought up earlier was like, big man coaches or superstar. I don't think that's valid anymore. I mean, shoot, like, Phil Jackson was a great coach. He was a big guy, but you get guards who are awful coaches, like Derek Fisher's an awful coach. Jason Kidd is a superstar. He's an awful coach. Brian Shaw was an awful coach. Those are guards. Jeff Hornacek, bad coach. Vinny Del Rego, awful coach. Also a small guy. I mean, I don't think there's just because you're a certain position prior or a certain height or whatever, you're going to be a good or bad coach. I think what teams are doing now is like, okay, who's going to relate best to my superstar? Who's going to relate best to my core guys? Is it going to be a former player who's been through what they've been through, or is it going to be a guy who's a tactician, a mathematician, or like a Stevens, or I don't know.
Your premise is this is something new to the league. So I look back 15 years ago or 16 years ago, 2000 season, 5 coaching changes to start the season, 6 in the season. 11 total coaching changes this year. I go to the next season, 2001, 10 total. We've seen that the last couple of years, one quarter to 1/3 of the league changes over every year. It's been like that in the NBA for 20 years. That's the way it is because it's been a superstar league for 20, 30 years. That you see that much turnover. This is not a new phenomenon. It's weirder that we see stuff like Frank Vogel happening.
Yeah.
That's a weird situation. We see more of that.
When
but
George
the number
Karl was coach of the year and then he got fired, which made no sense whatsoever.
I think you don't want to put the blame anymore on players. I don't think players are willing to take the blame also for losing seasons, and they will then just look for somebody to hang in front of the public. And that is maybe what Gino said, part of the instant gratification stuff. Yeah, you got to find somebody to shoot. You're going to shoot the coach.
Basically, if
you're
not,
let me quickly finish up.
If you're not Popovich, or Steve Kerr at this point, you're in trouble.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe.
Stevens, I think, has a long leash.
Anymore. Who knows?
Yeah,
let me
Stevens,
just quickly finish up here.
maybe. Yeah, go.
I know we got to get out of here in a minute. Let me just quickly say, speaking of people in the public spotlight, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Mark Cuban's name was recently floated as being a possible U.S. presidential favorite, either in the future or more immediately, because they want anyone but Trump in there. Just quickly, would you like to see Mark Cuban one day be the U.S. president, Mo?
Yes, hell yeah, man!
Chris,
and I'll take him over Trump any day.
He made his billions years ago. He's out of touch. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about anymore. He doesn't know how to relate to the common man.
Oh, boy.
Gino, Cuban president? Would you vote for Cuban president?
It sounds so funny. A Cuban president in America. Fantastic.
Got him.
All right, I would definitely not vote for Mark Cuban, but I'm also not a citizen, so it doesn't count.
I love him. I love him on Shark Tank, man. I love him on Shark Tank more than anything. He's great there. All right. Anyway, we got to wrap it up tonight. I want to thank all you people for listening to us. Do interact with us at Full Court Report on Twitter. And speaking of Twitter, let's go around the room, throw out our social media accounts. We'll call it a night tonight. Gino in Manila. Start with you.
It's at Gino Rufino, JINNO RUFINO. That's on Twitter and Instagram.
All right, Brad. Sorry, in Australia. What do you got?
You can follow me on Twitter at BackpackBaller. And let me just give a quick shout out to the WNBA who kicked off their 20th season. Make sure you make some time in your life to watch women's hoops because it kicks ass.
That's right. Chris, what's up, brother?
At not Bill Walton, and I will not be watching any WNBA. I still love you, ladies.
Hater.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at DJ Mo Twister. We'll see you again next time. I want to thank our staff who did a great job. We had a little technical issue starting off this episode, but they persevered and put an episode out for you guys. So let's thank them. And boy, do not miss tomorrow, San Antonio. OKC. I'm sorry. OKC and the Dubs.
What?
Yeah, OKC and Dubs. Sorry. I was looking at our notes.
We're gonna have Warriors v Thunder in what might be the greatest conference final in the last 30, 50, who knows, 100 years.
Wow.
And it is a true Game of Thrones clash.
Hell yeah. All right. We'll see you in our next episode and talk about that. And call it a night tonight. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.